All right, so what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, man. It's your boy, and today I wanted to give you guys my first impressions on all three of these new uniforms: Captain Britain, Mr. Sinister, and Colossus. Because I know a lot of you guys, you probably don't have enough crystals to buy every uniform that gets released. So you're wondering which one is the next meta, which one is actually the big deal from this update, which one you should buy, and which ones you should just absolutely skip like it's the plague. And if I had to be honest with you guys, based on what I'm seeing right now, it's definitely Betsy Braddock, aka Captain Britain Psylocke. This uniform, it has exceptional DPS, and the survivability for the character has definitely increased. She can actually be a viable character now, and in World Boss Legend, she can hold it down. She has a heal. She has insane amount of burst damage when you get her Awaken skill, because it offers you, let me show you guys, damage accumulation. It's not the highest accumulation in the game. It's only 0.8. And in addition to that, characters that have damage accumulation on their Awaken skill tend to suffer when you get to really high stages, because you can only put that damage accumulation up for 10 seconds every 30 seconds. That's a pretty big deal. There are characters in the game that can keep their damage accumulation up for the entirety of the fight from start till finish. And on top of that, some of them have 1%, 1.2%, even 1.5%. So this is definitely by far not the strongest damage accumulation we've seen, but she has some other buffs in her kit that make her a viable character. So right here, you can see she gets a 35% attack buff. On the 5th skill, she gets a 60% attack buff for one attack, and if you line things up perfectly, you can stack all of your damage on this skill and do exceptional damage. The 3rd skill also offers her a heal, and in addition to that, some more attack stats. So that's really good. And then her passive down here, as you can see, it now has guard break immunity, so you don't have to worry about getting knocked back by null, and you don't have to give her a CTP of destruction. However, I think something like that could work for her if you guys don't have judgment, but judgment is the CTP of choice for her, because you're going to want to let your 3rd skill at the very least play out somewhat, because of the fact that he has that heal, but the heal is not instant. You are going to have to hit a couple times with this thing if you want to get the heal, and if you're playing her with a regular damage proc, that is almost always going to trigger your proc. The rotation I'm using with her right now, because I am using a damage proc, I'm using 3 cancel, 4 cancel, 5, and if I don't get hit by the boss because they don't use an iframe ignore skill, then I do exceptional damage and I don't have to worry about anything. In order to incorporate my 6th skill, I do something like 3 cancel, 4 cancel, 6, and then I'll go ahead and proc on 5 and get big damage from all of those skills going off simultaneously. This is the build that I currently have for her, and she's actually performing quite well in World Boss Legend. Her artifact will actually increase her DPS. So if you really like her, you can go ahead and pick up her artifact, but gambling for it with crystals is going to be very costly. And I don't think she needs it to be a top tier DPS. Moving on to Colossus, I think this uniform visually is absolutely amazing. I love the visuals on it. It's one of my favorite uniforms in the game right now. That coat looking legendary. If they actually sold this thing in real life, I would buy it just to flex on the mandems. And I also love the lineup for my guy Colossus, the great one, the Colossi. However, this uniform is not essential. You do not need it, okay? The old one is plenty fine. I don't know what they were thinking with this one. Yes, Colossus can do more damage now in this new uniform, and I have a couple videos coming after this one which show you his damage increase from tier 2 to being transcended without this uniform and with the old one, okay? So, hear me out. Colossus is better now, especially since he's becoming a hero again. This is very important, because Spider-Man is a big part of the meta right now, and part of Spider-Man's passive is he does more damage to villains. So if you were trying to find counters for Spider-Man, Colossus could be a viable counter there. However, where is my Spider-Man? Do I have him favorited? I think I do. No? Oh yeah, he is. Okay. So part of Spider-Man's passive is this thing right here that gives him 60% extra damage to villains, right? In Colossus's Phoenix 5 uniform, you can see right here, he's a villain. So because of that, even though he has the physical reflect passive, he can often get one-shotted by Spider-Man. So him switching sides and becoming a hero again, that actually helps him tank Spider-Man a little bit better, and he can reflect more damage before he dies. However, 9 out of 10 times, Spider-Man is still going to kill him, even if you have this new uniform that is turning him into a hero and giving you a slight increase to the amount of damage that you can tank, because as you can see right here, the reflect damage that he takes or his allies take is decreased by 60%, and in the new uniform they increased that to 65%. That's realistically the only thing they did. I think they should have gone up to 70%, and then the other two should have been 70% as well. But I guess they don't want to make him and your team a super tanky team, because I guess they don't want to make the matches take 4 to 5 minutes. And honestly, I can see why. I wouldn't want to spend, I don't know, 40-50 minutes doing timeline battle a day if you're doing more than 10 fights, right? So I guess, but they should have found another way to make Colossus interesting. I think they should have given him iframe, ignoring a couple other things on his skills, because right now his only use is as a support character in PvP. I don't think there's any need for you to take the CTP of Insight off of him personally. So even if you do want to try him with a regen, just know he's going to be subpar. He's still going to die, and a lot of times he's going to be standing around in timeline battle just waiting for him to die, basically, because he does no iframe ignore, no counter attack, and pretty much all the PvP characters have multiple skills that have iframe ignore. Like Spider-Man right now is an absolute menace. He's in every single team, and this 4-5 combo of his that has ignore targeting, and then the follow-up with the 5th skill giving him the attack buff, he's just gonna kill Colossus every single time. And then we already know Dr. Doom loves to sit in iframes, so yeah, Colossus not having iframe ignore, he's not gonna really tank too well. He's gonna stand there and die. Moving on to Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister seems a little bit better DPS wise than Colossus, but I still really need to test him some more to get my final thoughts on him. However, I think he's gonna be an AC character, a niche character that if you have his artifact that gives him the undead passive similar to Hela, Wolverine, and Null, then he can be great for Alliance Conquest, and possibly on some weeks when they ban every single meta character. I'm talking, let me go to the artifacts and show you guys his artifacts. So in here, this is, well, let me find the 6-star variant so you can actually see the best effect. So if you give him this, then yes, he could be a viable character for PvP. But I still think for that to happen, they would have to ban Gilgamesh, ban Spider-Man, ban Sentry, ban Doom, ban literally every single top meta character, and then you have this artifact on your Sinister, and then he starts looking great. Listen, because he's a blast type, he could possibly kill a couple Wolverines, especially if it comes down to you having the artifact and the Wolverine doesn't, or the Wolverine has it and you trigger it first, because he's a blast type and he can do more damage to combat type, which Wolverine is a combat type. But let's be real, on any team that has Wolverine, there's either Molecule Man lead with Sentry, or there's a Doom or a Sentry in there, and they're gonna kill this guy long before you get to a fight with Wolverine, right? So it really comes down to if they ban all the top meta characters and then this guy is viable and you have the artifact, then he could be top tier. You know, that's what I'm seeing so far. I don't know what they were thinking with this one. They had a big opportunity here to cash in big time on Mr. Sinister since he's a paywall character, and they chose not to do it. It just seems rather silly to me personally, right? So if I was gonna buy one uniform, I was a free-to-play player, or if I was just trying to get the best bang for my buck, I would just say, listen, Betsy Braddock, definitely a top tier DPS with great survivability, so I would go with her, and then I would just skip over the other two, because Colossus is not going to really do too much that he can't do already. And then Mr. Sinister, listen, if you don't get the artifact, he's not doing anything at all. He's just going to die, right? That's just what I'm seeing so far. I could be wrong, okay? This is just my day one impressions. Let me show you guys the uniform options here before you go. I decided that I'm not going to get this guy's uniform to Mythic Day 1. I have 8 of these Mega Mythic uniform upgrade tickets, but I don't think he's deserving of one. So I'm just using biometrics and collecting them from the X-Gene selector over time to get his uniform to Mythic, because I don't see the need to rush. He's not going to be top meta anyways. I'm sad about it. Realistically, I am. I'm not here to shit on him, right? I wanted him to be great. I literally talked about him in a Danger Room Extreme video a couple weeks ago. He gets a uniform now, and he's looking kind of lame. Anyway, so we got Moon Knight. This is still a great uniform for Moon Knight. Rescue is great for timeline survival if you still play that junk, and then AC if you play that as well. Some would consider AC junk as well, so maybe Rescue is bad for you, I don't know. But then Invisible Woman, she's actually pretty viable, I'm not gonna lie. If this was like 2 weeks ago, I would say she's kind of junk too, but she's surprising me in a couple different ways. And then Venom, if you don't have Wolverine and you don't use Wolverine for ABX, he's still technically viable for ABX. I get about 8.6 million with my Venom on Sundays, and I don't even have any Odin's Blessings on the guy. So uniforms in that option for Sinister, it's not the worst, okay? Moving on, let's take a look at Betsy Braddock here. So I got her uniform to Mythic Day 1 just because of the fact that I have a bunch of bios from playing her missions every single day. We have Winter Soldier, that's kind of a bad uniform. Then we have Corvus, which is a good uniform. He's still ABX meta, and he can do really well in AC. And if you give him a CTP of energy, he can do well in World Boss. Moving on, we have Luke Cage. We know Luke Cage is a demon for timeline battle, and he's so freaking good for Alliance Conquest if you play that. Moving on, we have Hulk. Again, Hulk is really good for AC, and he can be viable in Alliance Conquest. Moving on, the last one is Professor X. Professor X is nothing right now. He's basically just a leadership. So this is a bad option. I wouldn't even recommend that anyone buys this uniform, let alone get it to Mythic, because it's super costly. You're pretty much going to have to use a Mega Mythic uniform to get on this one. Lastly, we have Colossus. Let's take a look at his uniform options here. We have Iron Man. Iron Man is still really good in my opinion. Then we have Gambit, which is really good. Gambit is pushing into the 50s in World Boss Legend, and he can one-shot DRX and GBR, so he's great. Moving on, we have Iron Fist. A lot of people sleep on this legend, but I personally love him. I think he's a top-tier DPS for World Boss Legend, and he can actually do well in Giant Boss Raid and Danger Room Extreme. I've even seen people like John one-shot in Danger Room Extreme with Iron Fist. Something rare, but it is possible. Moving on, we have X of Swords Cable. X of Swords Cable can actually do into the 50s in World Boss Legend, so it's not a bad uniform. And then the last one is TVA Loki, which we all know right now is one of the best uniforms in the game. So overall, to be honest with you guys, the uniform options that they chose this time around are not actually that bad, but 2 out of 3 of these characters I wouldn't buy the uniforms for, which means on my free-to-play account, since I don't already have the Phoenix 5 uniform for Colossus, I'll probably pick up this one because they both cost the same. But if I had this one, I would not be buying this one. Personally, from a free-to-play, I'm trying to get the most out of my account with the little crystals that I have approach, that I would just not be buying this one, even though it looks really cool. And then Sinister, obviously, I would not be buying the uniform for. And on my free-to-play account, I don't have Psylocke right now. And honestly, I don't think there is a rush for you to get Psylocke, especially considering, here's the thing. You can buy Invisible Woman, and then you can pick up Doctor Doom, okay? Watch this. Watch this. You can come over here. You could buy Gilgamesh and Makari. Then you get access to Thena. And 5 out of the 6 characters here are actually meta. Gilgamesh is PvP meta. Thena is ABX meta, Makari is Squad Battle ABX meta, and Icarus is a meta leadership for Cersei and Makari for pretty much any game modes that they're viable for, and then Cersei can be used in pretty much all content, PvE or PvP if you give her the right build. So you could come over here and spend your crystals way better, or you could go into the first family and pick up the deluxe package for Invisible Woman and then complete the epic quest and get yourself a Doctor Doom, and that would be a way better way of spending your crystals versus picking up Psylocke, which, yes, Psylocke is a top tier DPS, but watch this. At the end of the road, Strife is still not tier 3able, and Strife right now is barely AC meta. That's it. So unless Strife gets something in the next like 9 months, you're probably better off spending your crystals on somebody else besides Betsy. That's just me, right? But that's take nothing away from her. That's to take nothing away from her. She's still a top tier DPS, fun to play, easy to use, and very, very powerful. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.